Hi everyone, welcome to this section. We are group 16 and we are going to present on the topic if critical thinking is so critical to development, why do people, even the educated, find it so difficult to think critically? Like I said, we are group 16 and I'll be glad if you get to know my members. So let's start with Michael, who is our group leader. We have Mohaisin, we have Gloria, we have Ella, Monica, Rama, Rodney, Carlos, and myself, Magdalene. So let's dive into it. Before we get to the main topic, or before we get to talk about the main topic, we have to understand certain things that will make us understand the whole topic very well. So with that, we are going to talk about introduction to critical thinking, which entails the definition of critical thinking, the fundamental paradox, and then we are going to talk about logical and the psychological means. Then we are going to end up putting this psychological and critical means into one thing to make us get the trap under critical thinking. From there, we are going to move to the deposition. We are going to talk about psychological barriers, educational barriers, and then the social barriers. Then we will move on to the pathways, which is the blueprint of the whole thing. So let's dive into it. So at the end of this lesson, we are going to understand these whole things. But before that, let me take you guys through the introduction. So, what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is defined as the active, persistent, and careful consideration of any belief or supposed form of knowledge. This definition was given by John Dewey. So one thing you have to understand, or one thing you have to get to know, is that in the introduction we used John Dewey's ideas to talk about the introduction. So everything that is being stated under the introduction is by John Dewey. Exactly. So now that we know the definition of critical thinking, let's move to the fundamental paradox that we have. You see, he has the idea that if we want someone to think critically, why then do we have to put the person in a situation whereby he has to go according to the structure that we have? You see, we have institutions, we have cultures that has been laid out by a certain group of people, and we are expected to follow according to that. So if something has been laid out for us to follow, how then do we think critically? Because it's like they have laid a pattern for us to follow according to that, and it's not helping us. Because why? In the sense that I have something to look up to. Let's say in our study as students, they have given us, let's say, what is matter. It's already there. So this is not making me think critically. I know the definition is being written down. I just have to memorize it and put it in my head. So I don't think critically because I have that one to look up to. So that's doing. So he went ahead to talk about the physical and logical. So he was like, if we want someone to think critically, then we have to actually let the person think on his own down, rather introducing the person to a reformed kind of institution. Yes. So the physical and logical, the psychological and the logical to him is the conflict between the individual and the structure. Yes, that's what he meant. And then if we talk about the psychological, is the structure that we have, and the logical is we being the individual or the child. So yes, the conflict between these people is the paradox that we have.
The case of critical thinking. Our reference point is the article written by Robert Hugh Ennis from 1996. And the way he describes critical thinking is the reasonable reflective thinking, focused on deciding what to believe and what to do. This simply tries to tell us that his definition is trying to bridge the gap between what humans believe and what is actually the situation on the ground. His definition bridges pure abstract logic and actual human execution. This means that his definition is trying to merge how humans think on a regular basis and what humans actually do, so that in every case of situations happening, humans are able to reason better. Now, he says true critical thinkers are strictly disposed to seek absolute clarity and precision in dialogue, actively pursue alternative explanations and hypotheses, and approach problems with systemic, holistic, and complete perspectives.
So there are some psychological and cognitive barriers to which individuals do not think critically, even the educated. So we are taking reference from Daniel Kahneman's cognitive biases. And firstly, we talk about the system one dominance. This is where individuals tend to think fast and automatic rather than thinking slow and analytical. This is because when there's a situation at hand, individuals do not take their time to think through the situation, which makes them uncritical thinkers. And this leads to mental heuristic. We default to quick mental shortcuts. This leads to confirmation bias, seeking data that justify pre-existing feelings. So when we think fast and automatic, this will lead us to mental heuristics. Also, a key cognitive barrier to which individuals do not think critically is the WYSIATI concept. That's the what you see is all the is concept. Uncritically accepting immediate media, rumors, and superficial headlines as complete truth. So this is where we tend to believe all things that are on the media, in the sense of we not asking complex questions when there's a situation at hand. And also there's the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's highly educated professionals often develop overconfidence in their reasoning, blindly defending status aligned viewpoints. So this is a situation whereby even the educated personnel, they are overconfident in their reasoning. That's they think they know everything, and this does not help them to think critically, because when there's a situation at hand, they should slowly analyze the situation and ask complex questions about. And is the barrier which this is the barrier which tend to make individuals not think critically.
Today, I'll talk about educational barriers to critical thinking. Educational barriers to critical thinking happens when students are only taught how to memorize information instead of analyzing facts. Straight teaching method, fear of making mistakes can stop students from thinking critically. When learners are not motivated to share ideas or solve questions, their thinking skills become limited. Therefore, schools are advised to promote questioning, discussion, and active learning to help students to think critically.
Good day, everyone. Today I'll be talking about social barriers to critical thinking, specifically sociocentrism. It is the habit to follow beliefs, values, and norms of the societal group we belong to. From young age, people are influenced by families, communities, religions, and profession, making it difficult for them to think independently. As a result, people may avoid questioning group opinions because they fear rejection or damage to their reputation. This often leads to groupthink, where people prioritize argument over careful reasoning. Therefore, sociocentrism can prevent individuals from thinking critically and making objective decisions. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Yahaya Mohaisen. In this session, I will explain why education does not guarantee critical thinking, based on Martin Lippmann's book, Thinking in Education. First, let's look at knowledge versus judgment. Martin Lippmann explained that having knowledge is not the same as having a good judgment. A person may know many facts, pass examinations, and earn high grades, but still be unable to analyze information or make sound decisions. According to Lippmann, critical thinking is skill for responsible thinking that facilitates a good judgment. This means that real education should not only teach us about facts, but should also teach us how to think, reason, and make informed decisions. So now let's move on to the trap of credentialism. Credentialism is the belief that having certificate, degree, or high GPA automatically means someone is intelligent or a critical thinker. But Martin Lippmann disagrees with this idea. He argues that academic qualification only shows that a person has completed a course of study. They do not necessarily show that the person can evaluate evidence, solve problems logically, or question assumptions. In many schools, students focus on memorizing information to pass examinations. As a result, they gain qualification but may not develop critical thinking.
So, Martin Lippmann said students develop critical thinking through discussion, dialogue, and collaboration. Instead of listening to lectures, students are encouraged to ask questions, evaluate ideas, and respectfully challenge one another's opinion. This helps them think independently, consider different viewpoints, and improve communication skills. John Dewey believed that learning should be based on solving real-life problems and then reflecting experiences rather than memorizing facts. Harvey Seiju argued that critical thinking should be taught in all subjects so that it can help students evaluate and make informed decisions. Lastly, Carlos Dweck talked about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. He believed that intelligence can improve through effort and learning. A growth mindset helps students to see mistakes as opportunities and reduce fear of failure.
Critical thinking is regarded as an essential skill, but most people, including many educated individuals, continue to rely on habits, intuition, and unexamined beliefs instead of reflective thinking. The paradox becomes clearer when we consider that modern education has often prioritized producing disciplined individuals who fit into a predetermined system, rather than encouraging independent questioning and innovative ideas. Although critical thinking is widely valued, it is not always actively developed in schools. To address this, educational institutions should promote inquiry, discussion, and reflection, while students and teachers should embrace learning from mistakes and challenging assumptions. Society must also become more open to questioning authority and considering other viewpoints. By fostering critical thinking from an early age, education can help individuals make sound judgments and solve problems effectively. Ultimately, meaningful changes in schools, learning practices, and societal attitudes are necessary to develop truly independent and thoughtful thinkers. Thank you.